Today, we're going to dive into the life story of a truly, well, radical honey. This is a product that pretty much throws everything we think we know about honey right out the window, from how it tastes and feels to the way it actually ages. So let's jump right in.
Just for a second, I want you to picture honey. But what if it wasn't that thick, sweet stuff you drizzle on your toast? What if it was watery, with a sharp, tangy, almost sour flavor? Now, this isn't some weird hypothetical. It's totally real, and it's made by a very special kind of bee.
What we're talking about is stingless bee honey, or SBH for short. It's produced by Melipomene bees, and really, it's a fascinating outlier in the honey world. Its chemical story is just completely its own. And the differences are, well, they're not subtle. Right off the bat, look at the moisture. Up to 41% in stingless bee honey. That's what makes it so thin. And it's also what kicks off this wild journey of fermentation we're going to talk about. And then there's this stuff, trehalulose. It's a rare sugar you basically never find in regular honey. These aren't just little tweaks. This is a whole different ballgame.
So you have to think of stingless bee honey as this living, dynamic substance that's always changing. And that high moisture and high acidity? You might think those sound like flaws, but no, they're actually the essential features that define it. They're its superpowers.
All right, so let's actually trace that journey. We're going to start at the very beginning when one of these little stingless bees first visits a flower to get nectar. This is where the story of this radical honey really kicks off. The second that nectar enters the bee, the transformation is already starting. You see, unlike regular honeybees, stingless bees mix in this unique cocktail of their own enzymes and microbes from the very start. It's like they're adding a secret sauce that sets the nectar on a completely different path. So let's look at what this pre-honey is made of. You've got that high moisture, of course. You've got your standard sugars, fructose and glucose, plus that special one, trehalose. It also has these beneficial things called phenolic compounds, and this is key, they're in a locked form. And finally, it's already full of yeasts and lactic acid bacteria. And those little guys? They are the key to everything that happens next.
Now, when you hear yeast and bacteria in your food, your brain might immediately jump to spoilage, right? Well, for this honey, you have to flip that idea completely on its head. This isn't spoilage. It's the engine of an amazing transformation. It's fermentation that truly brings this honey to life. And, as the source material points out, this fermentation isn't a bug. It's a feature. It's the whole point. This is the very process that turbocharges the honey's bioactivity, unlocking all of its potential health benefits.
So how does that work? Okay, think of it like this. It's a treasure chest. Those initial phenolic compounds, the glycosides, that's the locked treasure. The microbial chefs, all those yeasts and bacteria, they're the key. Through fermentation, they break the lock and they transform the compounds into something called aglycones. And that is the unlocked, bioavailable treasure that our bodies can actually use.
And the result of all this microbial cooking is a 2-for-1 deal. First, it makes the honey more acidic, which gives it that signature tangy taste. But more importantly, it creates a whole new set of powerful compounds that just weren't there at the beginning, dramatically boosting its antioxidant and antimicrobial punch.
But now, this living, dynamic honey reaches a really critical point in its life. Its journey isn't over just because it's been harvested. Nope, this is where the real battle to preserve its unique qualities begins.
So let me introduce you to the villain of our story, a compound called HMF. HMF is basically a marker for decay in all honey. It shows up when sugars break down from heat or just from age. And in the high moisture, high acidity world of stingless bee honey, HMF is a particularly aggressive enemy. You don't have to take my word for it. Just look at this chart. When the honey is fresh, HMF is super low. If you store it in the fridge, the levels stay pretty low. But if you leave it out at room temperature, whoa, the HMF levels just explode. This tells you everything you need to know about how sensitive this stuff is.
This is the magic number you need to remember, 4 degrees Celsius. The research is crystal clear on this. Refrigeration is the single best way to stop that degradation, hold on to all those precious compounds, and keep the villain, HMF, away.
Now, to make things even more interesting, not all stingless bee honey is created equal. Its life story also really depends on its geography. So, honey from Afrotropical regions often has even higher moisture, which makes it degrade faster. But Asian SBH, on the other hand, tends to be richer in that special sugar trehalulose and is often a bit more stable.
Okay, so we've been on this wild chemical journey, from flower to bee to pot to the fridge.
But why does any of this actually matter? Well, it matters because this radical honey forces us to completely rethink what quality even means when we talk about our food.
And here is the core problem. Global honey standards, the rules we use, were all written for a static product, thick, sweet, low-moisture honey. So when you try to test this living, breathing stingless bee honey against those old rules, it fails. Its high moisture and acidity get it flagged as low quality or even spoiled, when those are the very things that make it so beneficial.
The takeaway here is pretty obvious, right? We need a whole new rule book. And we're not just talking about tweaking a few numbers. This is about a total paradigm shift. We need new standards that are built for SBH's unique nature, that see its high moisture as a good thing, that recognize trehalulose as a key marker, and that set HMF limits that actually make sense for this product. That's how we protect both the consumers and the producers of this incredible stuff.
And all of this brings us to one final big question. With all its bioactive potential unlocked through fermentation, stingless bee honey really isn't just a sweetener, it's a functional food. So the question we're left with is this. Is this precious, complex, and for now unregulated product a glimpse into the very future of food itself?